What is going on, everyone? This is Eric coming at you from just outside of Hartford, Connecticut. And today, we're going to be looking at the 2021 NFL trade deadline. Now, for the purpose of this video, what we're going to do is we're going to look at all the trades that were made between October 1st and November 2nd in the NFL, just because some bigger names were moved in early to mid-October. So without further ado, we'll start by looking at the first trade, which saw the Chicago Bears net wide receiver Jakeem Grant from Miami in exchange for a 2023 sixth-round pick. This is a pretty inconsequential trade. So Jakeem Grant never really got it going on the offense in the past couple years from Miami, and he's been mostly a return man. And Chicago, they kind of needed a return man, and they took a chance on him for his explosive abilities on the offensive side of the ball. So far, he's mostly still been sticking to returning, so can't blame him. And Miami is just getting a future draft pick, so you can't blame them for that. The next trade we saw was one of the bigger trades, and it saw Carolina net cornerback Stephon Gilmore from New England in exchange for a 2023 sixth-round pick. So you want to tell me that Stephon Gilmore is worth the same as Jakeem Grant? Interesting. But all said and done, it does make sense. Gilmore had expressed his displeasure. He wants a new contract. He's a pending free agent, I believe, and he's on a bigger deal still. So New England, it was actually originally rumored that they were cutting him, but then all of a sudden the Panthers swooped in and gave a sixth-round pick for him. So New England's happy with that. But what Carolina gets is they get themselves one of the top corners when healthy of the past 5-10 years at this point. I'd say, decades since he was drafted in 2012. So Gilmore is a great player. The real thing is he going to be able to make an impact in Carolina? Is Carolina going to be able to, actually make a run this year? There's a chance now, especially with Jameis Winston being hurt in New Orleans. So there's definitely a chance for Carolina to step up. But we'll have to see. Decent trade, all said and done. The next trade we saw was between Arizona and Philadelphia, and saw Arizona acquire tight end Zach Ertz in exchange for cornerback Tay Gowan and a 2022 fifth-round pick. So first things first, Zach Ertz, I thank you for everything you did for Philly. Great player, one of the best players of all time in the organization at least. Caught the eventual game-winning touchdown pass in Super Bowl 52. Broke an NFL record in 2018 for most catches in a single season by a tight end. So I will miss Zach Ertz a lot. But Arizona is getting a very strong, very competitive player in Zach Ertz. He's already played a game for them, and he played very well, relatively speaking, being new in the offense. He's going to be a good safety valve for Kyler Murray in Arizona. So getting him for a pretty low price is pretty good. He is on the older side. He is over 30, and he is on a somewhat expensive contract, I guess you could say. But can't blame Arizona. They're in a win-now mood, so he's a great addition for that. Now, Philadelphia got a young corner who was just drafted in 2021. He's athletic, but he's yet to play for the Eagles. It's going to be interesting to see what happens, but, the upside's there, but in reality, I don't expect him to hit it. And then that 2022 fifth-round pick is just the Eagles stacking up future assets. So there's that. And the next trade we saw was another pretty minor one between Denver and Minnesota, as Denver got defensive end Stephen Weatherly and a 2023 seventh-rounder from Minnesota in exchange for a 2022 seventh-round pick. So like I said, pretty mild trade. These teams are swapping, a 2022 for a 2023 seventh-round pick. And in exchange for doing that, Denver got Stephen Weatherly. Realistically, he's not great. He's not going to get too much playing time on the defense. He's more of a special teamer or reserve role, so not too much to talk about in that trade. The next trade we had was between the LA Rams and Denver, and it saw LA getting a 2024 sixth-round pick in exchange for linebacker Kenny Young and a 2024 seventh-round pick. So LA moves up around in 2024 in exchange for giving up Kenny Young. Kenny Young, he'll get some playing time on the defense. He's pretty good, but he's more of a special teamer to my understanding. I don't really watch a lot of Rams games just because, they're on the West Coast. But Kenny Young's a solid player when he plays. He's got good tackling skills to my knowledge, but he's still not the best player in the league. Denver, though, taking a chance on a young guy, moving down around in 3 future drafts. I can't blame you for doing that. The next trade was between New York and Philly and saw the New York Jets acquire quarterback Joe Flacco in exchange for a conditional 2022 5th or 6th round pick. So this was made after Zach Wilson got hurt. Wilson's out with a sprained MCL, I believe it is at this point. So they made this trade. Flacco was, of course, with the Jets last year in 2020. New coaching regime, though, so take that with a grain of salt, if you will. But Flacco, still a veteran, still a Super Bowl champion, so he knows what he's doing. Right now, though, Mike White looked very good last week. He's going to be starting Thursday's game, so we'll see what happens. We'll see if they even need Flacco, but giving up a 6th-round pick for him, which it's probably going to end up becoming, judging by how White played, isn't much. The 5th-round pick, it can be bumped up to a 5th-round pick based on playing time, so we'll have to see. The next trade was between New Orleans and Houston and saw the Saints acquire running back Mark Ingram from Houston in exchange for a 2024 7th-round pick. Yeah, this trade upset Brandon Cooks, so that's how I found out about the trade, because I saw Cooks tweet about it. Yeah. Mark Ingram, though, Ingram basically said the only way he was going to be traded is if he went to New Orleans. And it's going to be a tough one to kind of figure out what's going on with him there. Because now with Winston out, they're going to definitely be a run-heavy offense. So it's kind of like they maybe somewhat foresaw that. We don't know, but now they at least have another strong running back to pair with Alvin Kamara. So there's that. And, of course, Taysom Hill, if he's the starter, will also be running a lot. So it's going to be interesting. To trade a 7th-round pick for Ingram, who also signed a 1-year extension, isn't bad at all. So I like the trade for both. For New Orleans, for Houston, I mean, you're getting an asset for a player that was going to leave after the season. So there's that. Then we had definitely the biggest trade of the deadline when the LA Rams got defensive end outside linebacker Von Miller from Denver in exchange for a 2022 2nd and 3rd-round pick. So, this was probably one of the bigger deals we've had at the deadline since maybe even Jimmy Garoppolo, which speaks volumes. It's an interesting trade. So the Rams are sitting at 7-1, and they're clearly in win-now mood. They want to win the Super Bowl this year. And this was somewhat of a counter to Arizona getting Zach Ertz, who's a win-now player as well. But, Von Miller is one of the best players from an elite draft class in 2011. So the thing is, he is a pending free agent, and he's on a big contract right now. I think he's due $9 million still or something like that. So it's tough, but are you going to be able to re-sign him? Let's just look at the positives, though. Von Miller, great player. He will add a lot to that pass rush that's already lethal with Aaron Donald. So if you're playing them, I feel so bad for you. I feel so bad for you if you're playing the Rams. In exchange, though, Denver got a pair of day 2 picks in next year's draft. With how things are looking, they're probably going to be in the 60 to 64 range, and then, the mid-90s as well for the 3rd-round pick. You're getting a couple young, cheap, controllable players for 4 years, so as long as you can hit on at least one of them, the trade's worth it, because Von Miller probably was not going to come back to Denver since they clearly look like they're going to be embracing a rebuild. All in all, this was a big trade. And like I said, it's probably one of the biggest trades we've had in years at the deadline. Next, we had Kansas City get defensive end linebacker Melvin Ingram from Pittsburgh in exchange for a 2022 6th-round pick. Kansas City's defense has been atrocious. They were near the bottom of the league in basically every category. Adding Melvin Ingram, Ingram, all said and done, he is still a bit of a bust at this point in his career. But he can at least add some pass rush ability. So that's what Kansas City needs. I think they're still at the bottom of the league for sacks, which isn't good at all. Giving up a 6th-round pick for him, can't blame them. In Pittsburgh's eyes, you're getting an asset for a player that was probably going to walk, that wasn't getting much playing time. So, good trade for both teams. Then we have the San Francisco 49ers getting defensive ends Charles Omenihu in exchange for a 2023 6th-round pick. Omenihu is probably not going to play much for this team. He's going to be a guy who goes in to spell Bosa and Armstead. He's not going to be a starter. He's not going to make this team. He's not going to break this team. He's just a decent reserve piece. He's gotten some ability. He's under team control for 1 more year. So you got to say it's going to be something with him. He's probably more, like I said, maybe a special teams, more of a 3rd string DE that you put in if you need him, but they're hoping not to use him too much. And again, for Houston, you're getting a 6th-round pick for a guy that wasn't playing much on your team, so Yeah. Then we have the New York Jets getting guard Laurent Duvernay-Tardif from Kansas City in exchange for tight end Dan Brown. Now, Duvernay-Tardif, he opted out 2020. He was hurt for a while as well. He hasn't really played much since 2019, but he was a starter on that Super Bowl winning team. So there's that. He's got experience. The Jets, they need all the help they can get in protecting their quarterbacks. I mean, you saw them pick, what's his name, Elijah Vera Tucker in the first round last year. They traded up to pick him. Or this year, I guess you say 2021. So clearly, they know they need some guard help. They need some offensive line help. Adding him is going to help this team out. Hopefully, at least on paper, especially for offensive linemen, you don't need too much training. You can kind of plug and play him for the most part, unless you're the center. But even then, you know, he could just kind of talk to the guys and be like, all right, this is what we got, this is what we got to do. So good move for the Jets. Kansas City, they kind of could use a backup tight end. They like having strong tight ends that can block as well. So pretty solid trade, all things considered. The last trade that was actually announced like 20-25 minutes after the deadline was between Philadelphia and Denver, and saw Philadelphia get cornerback Kory Vincent Jr. in exchange for a 2022 6th-round pick. As an Eagles fan, I still don't understand this trade. Now, there's a lot of upside with Vincent. I get that. He's pretty good. He was explosive. He was a big playmaker in college, but he doesn't tackle all that well. And he was a 7th-round pick this past year that has yet to play this season. So I don't understand why you're giving up a future 6th for a guy that you could have picked at 237 last year, but instead you picked Patrick Johnson, and then Denver picked this guy 3 picks after. So it doesn't make sense to me. Regardless, there's upside there, but he's probably going to be more of a special teams player. They're really taking a lot of chances on young corners. And for Denver, you're getting a 6th-round pick, probably a high 6th-round pick, for a guy that hasn't even played for you. So pretty good trade for Denver. But that sums up the 2021 NFL trade deadline. The 2021 NFL trade deadline was pretty much as quiet as most trade deadlines are for football, which is very unfortunate, but it is what it is. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Have a good rest of your day.